Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horror Stories. I know many of you use these episodes to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the episodes. Story 1. I worked the night shift at a shipping warehouse in Fresno from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week. It's one of those jobs that aren't terrible, but just monotonous enough to pay rent and make you question your life choices from time to time. You blink and suddenly you've been there 5 years. And if you stop blinking, you're probably asleep on a stack of pallets in the back. The place is just how you'd imagine it. Endless rows of conveyor belts, metal shelving that reaches 20 feet high, forklifts buzzing like angry bees, and that weird chemical smell that never quite leaves your clothes. The break room smells like burnt popcorn and old coffee. There's always one vending machine that eats your dollar and another that gives you expired chips. 5-star service all around. The people I work with are decent enough. There's Alex, who sings off-key R&B into his earbuds, and Nico, who shows up 5 minutes late every night, yet somehow never gets written up. He rolls in like he fell out of a moving car, Red Bull in one hand and a half-eaten granola bar in the other. Most of us keep to ourselves unless someone's complaining about overtime or vending machine drama. It's a quiet camaraderie. We're not close, but we recognize each other. In mid-July, a new guy showed up. A temp hired through one of those staffing agencies management uses when they're short-handed. He didn't quite fit in from the beginning. Older, maybe in his 40s, with a clean-cut look and neatly pressed khaki pants. No one wears khakis here. That's the sign they won't last. He didn't talk much, just followed the supervisor around his first shift and nodded a lot. On the third night, while I was trying to pour myself a cup of coffee during a break, if you can even call it coffee, it tastes like hot soapy water. The guy walked in. He stood in front of the machine like he was debating whether the risk was worth it, then turned to me and asked, "Do you leave right at 6 or do they ever keep you late?" It caught me off guard, but I figured he was just trying to understand how the schedule really worked. I shrugged. Depends. Sometimes later, if we're behind. Why? No reason, he replied with a small smile. Just enough to seem friendly. Just curious. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Not a particularly weird question. But later that same night, while I was restocking a shelf, he walked by again and asked, "Do you park in the front lot?" With my mouth full of sandwich, I nodded. Yeah, it's easier to leave at the end of shift. He seemed to consider it. Smart. I parked in back. Might switch tomorrow. From there, things got weird. He started showing up in the same places I was. Same aisle, same break times. One time I went to the far end of the building looking for some quiet, and 5 minutes later, there he was, leaning on the same stack of boxes, drinking the same blue Gatorade I always grab. Then one night I realized we were eating the exact same thing. Microwave burrito, blue Gatorade, pack of saltine crackers, all from the same vending machines. Maybe a coincidence, but it didn't feel like one. And then I lost my access card. I always keep it clipped to my belt. Always. One night, halfway through my shift, I went to clock out for lunch and it was just gone. Vanished. I spent nearly an hour searching, asked coworkers, checked the floor, break room, bathroom. Nothing. That same night, around 3 a.m., I was in the break room zoning out, staring toward the parking lot. There's a big window that faces the front lot, the only real source of a natural light when the sun starts to rise. But under those harsh exterior lights, I saw something that snapped me out of it. The driver's side door of my car, wide open. I got up so fast I spilled my coffee. I ran out, heart in my throat. It wasn't fear exactly. It was the certainty that I had locked that door. No one was there. The glove box was open. I always keep it locked. Inside, everything looked fine, except for one thing. The spare key to my apartment that I kept hidden in a back corner. It was gone. I went straight to security. They checked the cameras. Of course, the lot cameras are old, low res. maybe 15 frames per second. You could barely make out a blurry figure near my car, then walking away. Could have been anyone. Could have been him. The guard just shrugged, said they'd file a report and keep an eye out. The next few nights I parked under the only working spotlight in the brightest part of the lot. Didn't help much. Every time I walked to my car, I felt this uncomfortable pressure. Not just paranoia, something sharper. Like when you know someone's staring at your back. Then there was the car. Always the same one. A white four-door sedan with tinted windows. Parked right in front of my building. 2 nights in a row. The third night it was closer. Half a block. The fourth night it didn't show. The fifth night it did. That night I saw the guy near my station. I was scanning and labeling boxes, and he wasn't even pretending to work. Just standing there with his arms crossed, watching me. We made eye contact. I walked over, trying to act casual. "You been parking in the front lot lately?" I asked. He tilted his head like he didn't quite get the question. "Why?" "Because someone got into my car." He smiled, didn't blink. "That's wild. People will do anything these days." And he walked away before I could say anything else. That night I stepped out early for air, lit a cigarette, and leaned against the railing, trying not to look at the lot. But then I saw movement. Someone crouched near my car. Not doing anything, just there, squatting like they were inspecting the tire or something. I dropped the cigarette and ran. By the time I got there, no one. No car driving off. No footsteps. Nothing. But next to the front tire was my old access card. I didn't go back inside. I sat in my car with the doors locked, staring through the windshield. The sun rose shortly after 6. I drove home without taking my eyes off the rearview mirror. When I got to my apartment, I locked the door, jammed a chair under the handle, and drew all the curtains. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. At around 6:45 a.m., right when I'd normally be getting home from work, I heard it. Software metallic. Someone trying to turn the doorknob. I crept over silently and stood still, holding my breath. After a few seconds, it stopped. I waited, counted to 60. Then again. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. But I heard footsteps. Slow, careful. Fading down the hall. The next day I filed a police report. Told them everything. The new guy, the card, the break-in. They were polite but not too concerned. Took my statement, said they'd look into it. That same night, HR pulled me aside. The temp hadn't shown up. No call. No notice. They checked his file. No badge ever issued. His time card was handwritten. I called the agency. Gave them his name. They said they never sent anyone by that name to our location. It's like he never existed. I changed my locks. Installed a door camera. Moved the spare key into a locked drawer in my bedroom. I don't leave anything in the glove box anymore. I don't even make eye contact in the break room. And some nights when I walk to my car, I still stop and look around. Just in case. I still don't know what that man wanted, or why he chose me. But ever since then, I keep my keys in a new spot, somewhere no one can see them. Story 2. Working the night shift at a gas station off the 244 in Tulsa isn't exactly the most exciting job in the world, but it's simple enough. You just have to keep your head down, stay out of trouble, and keep calm when the weirdos start showing up after midnight, which happens more often than you'd think. It's a quiet job. Too quiet sometimes. The kind of silence that's so thick, you start to feel like you're the last person on Earth. So much so that you begin narrating your life in your head just to stay awake. I used to think that silence was comforting. I'm not so sure anymore. It was late July and the heat wasn't letting up. Even though the sun had been down for hours, the pavement still radiated heat, like the concrete held a grudge. The AC inside the store couldn't keep up, so the whole place had this plasticky, damp smell, like the candy aisle was melting. Even the air felt sticky. It was just after 11:50 p.m. and I was doing the usual, closing out the first register, counting lottery tickets and stacking up trash bags for the midnight run. I hadn't seen a customer since a college kid came in around 11:05 to buy a vape. That's when I saw him walk in. A man in a tucked-in polo shirt and jeans, phone in hand. He looked hot and in a hurry, like someone who just jogged across a parking lot in shoes that didn't fit right. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his eyes darted around like he was looking for something. He wasn't browsing. He was searching, intently, urgently. He approached fast, walked straight to the counter, and started speaking before he'd even fully reached me. "Brother, sorry to bother you, but my wife's in labor and we're on our way to Hillcrest. Can I use the bathroom real quick?" I pointed down the aisle. "The public restroom's right there, around the corner." He looked at the sign, then looked back at me. "No, I mean the employee one, it's urgent. Please." He started to approach the counter like he was going to cross it. I stepped forward and planted myself right in front of him. "Sorry, I can't allow that. Store policy." He paused mid-step, tried to smile. "Come on, man. She's in the car. I just need a second. The last gas station's bathroom was locked and I've been holding it forever." The way he said, "she's in the car," something about it didn't sit right. I couldn't say exactly why, but I didn't like it. I held my ground, looked him straight in the eyes. And that's when I noticed where he was actually looking. Not at me, not at the bathroom. His gaze was locked on the back of the store, specifically on the camera mounted over the stockroom door. That really didn't sit well with me. I raised my hand and pressed the mic button on my radio. It wasn't connected to anything, but he didn't know that. "Can you come up front for a sec?" I said loud enough for him to hear. He blinked, then looked back at me. "You here alone?" "The second attendant's in the back," I lied. "He'll be out in a minute." We stood like that, me blocking his path, him calculating. I wasn't going to budge, and he could tell. Eventually, he backed off. "All good," he said, slipping back into a friendly tone. "Didn't mean to freak you out." He walked off like nothing had happened, wandered over to the coolers in the back, picked out a bottle of water, then pretended to browse the gum and snacks like he was genuinely interested, but didn't grab anything else. I didn't take my eyes off him for a second. When he finally came back to the counter, he smiled like we were lifelong friends. "Long night, huh?" "Yeah," I said, scanning the bottle. $1.89, I told him. He handed me a 5, waited for his change without looking away from me once. Then he nodded and left. But what still bothers me happened after that. He didn't get into a car. I leaned over to check the side window. I saw him walk around the corner of the building and vanish. No headlights turned on, no engine started, no movement. He just disappeared around the back. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe his car was parked further down. Maybe his wife really was in labor and he didn't want to disturb her. But I didn't buy it. 5 minutes passed. I grabbed the trash bag I'd prepped, pulled on my gloves, and slowly pushed open the back door. The alley behind the store felt like an oven. The dumpster sat in its usual spot, boxed in by concrete walls and lit only by a lamp about 30 feet away. I could hear bugs buzzing near the light. Other than that, dead silence. I stepped outside, letting the door close behind me. I'd only gone a few steps when I heard a faint scuff to my left. I turned. He was there, behind the dumpster. This time he wasn't smiling, and he wasn't holding the water bottle anymore. Just something dark and crumpled in his hands. They looked like rubber gloves. His breathing was shallow and fast, like he'd been getting ready for something. He didn't say a word. Neither did I. I turned and walked quickly without running back to the door. My hand was on the knob before my brain even fully processed what was happening. Sometimes that door sticks. You have to yank it pretty hard. This time it opened easy. I darted inside, slammed it shut, locked it, and leaned against it for a second, trying to catch my breath. I picked up the phone and called the non-emergency line. Told them there was a man loitering out back, possibly trying to enter unauthorized. 12 minutes later, a patrol car showed up. 2 officers came in and I gave them the full story. They checked the alley with flashlights, circled the entire building. He was gone, but they did find something. In the dust behind the dumpster, there were partial footprints pressed hard into the dirt, like someone had been standing there for a while, waiting. One of the officers used his pen to lift something off the ground, a black rubber glove inside out. "That door may have saved your life," he said. They offered to stay while I closed up, but I still had 6 hours to go. I told them I'd be fine. Maybe I believed that. Maybe I didn't. They left and I double-checked every lock. I didn't tell my boss. I didn't want to be reassigned. I liked the night shift. Now I keep an iron bar behind the counter, and another by the back door. And when I take out the trash these days, I do it fast. One hand on the bag, the other on the handle. Story 3. Working the graveyard shift at a 24/7 gym sounds worse than it actually is. At least most nights. It's quiet, calm, and over time you get to know the regulars. The ones training for some competition, the ones trying to escape something, and the ones who just can't stand being around people. I get it. That night I was covering the overnight shift. It was the middle of January, so cold that the glass doors fogged up every time someone walked in. Between midnight and 3 a.m., it's always the same faces. A couple of guys from the nearby casino, 2 students who train in total silence, and a woman named Jules who runs on the treadmill like she's chasing something. Nothing exciting, but all very routine. You get used to it. Cleaning the locker rooms, restocking the fridge with drinks, wiping down benches nobody even used. Some nights I read. Other nights I just scroll on my phone. But that Tuesday felt different. Not from the very beginning, but just enough to make you feel something was about to shift. By 2 a.m. I had wiped down the counters, reorganized the reception drawer, and was halfway through a cold coffee. The cameras showed nothing out of the ordinary and the gym was calm. I had just returned from checking the towel bins when the glass doors slid open. A man walked in alone. No backpack, no water bottle. Just wearing jeans, a dark puffer jacket, and an expression that looked like a forced attempt at being relaxed. He didn't scan a key card. Didn't even glance at the reader. I stepped out from behind the desk. "Can I help you?" He smiled, a smile that was way too quick, way too rehearsed. "I'm waiting for my cousin. Said we'd meet here." I paused for a second and looked him up and down. "All right. Visitors can stay as long as they don't enter the workout areas." He nodded and walked toward the windows near the treadmills. He didn't sit. Just stood there with his hands in his jacket pockets watching the gym. Not looking, watching, cataloging every person in the building. At first I wanted to believe him. Maybe his cousin really was on the way. Maybe he was just bored. But the longer he stood there, the weirder it all felt. 15 minutes passed, then 20. He didn't take out his phone, didn't scroll, didn't check the time. He just walked slow loops like he was casually pacing around the gym. No stretching, no warming up, just slow circles. Watching. He passed Jules twice. The second time, she looked at me and raised her eyebrows like, "What's this guy's deal?" I gave a subtle shrug, but I kept him in my line of sight. Then the guy came back over to the desk. "You always work this shift?" I gave a forced laugh. "No, just covering tonight. I usually do mornings." A lie, I always work nights. "What time do you get off?" he asked. 9, I lied again. "It's a long one tonight." He nodded and wandered off again, slower this time, letting his gaze linger a little longer on each person. At 2:45, Marcus and Devin arrived, 2 of the regulars. Big guys in their 30s, serious weightlifters. Chill but intimidating. They waved at me as they passed, heading toward the free weights. I watched as the man noticed them instantly. He didn't stay much longer after that. A few minutes later, he walked back to the entrance. "Guess he ditched me," he said with that same fake smile. Have a good night." He left. I stood up and walked to the window, pretending to check the outside thermometer. But really, I just wanted to see him. He didn't get into a car. He walked to the far end of the parking lot and disappeared into a dark corner where the lights didn't reach. I finished my shift trying not to overthink it. I stayed busy, faked normal. By 6:45 a.m., the gym had cleared out. Jules left first. Devin and Marcus followed after finishing their cool-downs. By 7:10, I was alone. I clocked out, grabbed my bag, and put on my jacket. My car was parked in the farthest spot on the lot near the back fence. I stepped into the bitter cold, head down, keys already in hand. And then I saw it. A car running in the far corner of the lot. No headlights, just exhaust mist drifting through the freezing air, barely lit by the orange parking lamps. It was too dark to see the driver, but the engine was on. It wasn't parked near the entrance or any other vehicles, just in that one shadowy spot. I slowed my pace, kept walking, but every nerve was on high alert. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up under my coat. I hit the key fob from about 10 feet away. The blinking lights on my car felt way too loud. I climbed in fast, locked the doors, and started the engine. The car in the corner blinked its lights. Not fully, just a flash. Just enough to say, "I see you." I didn't wait. I pulled out fast, took a sharp turn, and sped straight toward the exit. I didn't look back, didn't care if I scraped the curb. At the first red light, I called Lily, my best friend. Just hearing her voice calmed me down. I told her something weird had happened and that I needed to crash at her place. I drove aimlessly for half an hour, through streets I didn't know, neighborhoods I'd never seen. I checked my mirrors constantly. Never saw that car again. But I couldn't shake the feeling it was still there, just behind me. Eventually, I pulled into a 7-Eleven and parked under the brightest group of lights I could find. I sat there, engine running, trying to breathe normally. When I finally got to Lily's place, she didn't ask many questions. She just handed me a blanket and let me sleep on the couch. The next night, I told my boss. He didn't laugh, didn't shrug it off. He went straight to the back office and pulled up the security footage. We watched it together. There he was, same guy, same jacket, that same anxious, uneasy walk. Then we fast-forwarded to the next day. He came back, didn't go inside, just stood in the corner of the building, hands in his pockets, no lights on in his car, barely moved. We called the police. They arrived about 20 minutes later, took my statement, and said they'd file a report and increase patrols in the area. But I could tell, unless he actually did something, they couldn't do much. One of the officers was talking to my boss when he opened the door to let them out. That's when he saw it. A folded piece of paper tucked into the outer door handle. No envelope, neatly folded. It read, "You looked cold. I could have kept you warm." I asked to be transferred to the day shift after that. And ever since then, no matter where I park, I always check the corners first. Thank God I haven't seen him again. But I can't stop thinking about that night. His stare. That running car. I don't know what he wanted. But I know for sure he wasn't waiting for his cousin. Story 4. I worked the night shift at a business hotel on the outskirts of Tucson. The kind that sits just off the highway and looks identical to a dozen others along a 5-mile stretch. 3 stories, beige stucco, free continental breakfast, and lukewarm coffee in cardboard cups. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. I'm the overnight receptionist. Most of the time it's quiet. We mostly serve sales reps, exhausted families just passing through, and the occasional guest who's clearly here to cheat on someone. People check in, sleep, and leave before sunrise. I check them in, hand over their room keys, answer questions about vending machines and Wi-Fi passwords, and mostly just try not to fall asleep at the desk. We're not the kind of hotel where weird things happen. No events, no conventions, no drama. The night shift is more about staying awake than staying busy. In fact, It can get painfully dull. Security is more of a concept than a real system. Sure, we have cameras, but they're only checked when something goes wrong. After midnight, I'm the only staff member on site, aside from the occasional janitor doing rounds. My job is mostly just buzzing people in, not much else. So when a DoorDash delivery guy showed up around 1 a.m., it didn't seem unusual. Food deliveries at that hour are common. Drunk guests who forgot they already ate. Others who order just to have someone to talk to. Happens more often than you'd think. The guy came up to the glass door and tapped gently. He was holding a large red thermal bag. Middle-aged, wearing jeans and a clean polo shirt under a zip-up hoodie. He had a friendly face and a baseball cap pulled low over his forehead. "Delivery for room 214, he said once I let him in. The guest said they'd meet me by the elevator. I nodded and pointed down the hall. "Second floor to the left after you exit the elevator. They should be waiting for you." He thanked me and walked off calmly like nothing was out of place. I went back to the desk, kept scrolling through some spreadsheets, and forgot about it. About 10 minutes later, I looked up, and there he was again. This time without the food bag. He was sweating, but not from the heat. The lobby was sitting at around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and this guy looked like he'd been running marathons in a sauna. His shirt clung to his back, and sweat was dripping from under his cap. Something didn't add up. He let out a nervous little laugh. "Hey, I forgot to ask about the tip. I thought maybe the guest... I don't know, maybe they had something in cash." I frowned. Most people tip through the app. Yeah, of course, just figured I'd check," he said with a tense, forced smile. I nodded, watching him closely. He hesitated, like he wanted to say something else, but gave up and turned to leave. He walked slowly, like he didn't really want to go, but also didn't want to seem suspicious. Something about the way he moved felt off, rehearsed, like he was acting. I pulled up the camera monitor just in case, rewound to the moment he came in. He took the elevator to the second floor, but instead of stopping at room 214, he passed right by and slipped into the staff-only hallway that runs behind the guest rooms. That hallway only leads to two places, the maintenance supply room and the staff bathrooms. No one who doesn't work here has any reason to be back there. I fast-forwarded the footage. 10 minutes later, the camera caught him coming back through the same hallway. Still no food bag. He crossed the lobby again and left through the front door. I grabbed my flashlight and headed for that hallway. Everything was silent. I checked the supply closet. Locked. Peeked into the bathroom. Empty. And then I saw it. The window above the sink was open. Barely cracked, but enough. It's one of those long, narrow windows you'd have to work to squeeze through. I've worked here for 3 years, and I've never seen it open. The sink beneath it was damp, like someone had leaned on it to reach the ledge. My throat tightened. I went back to the desk and pulled up the camera facing the rear parking lot. And there he was, crouched next to a white SUV, one of the guests' cars. The DoorDash bag was gone. In his hand was something thin, a wire, a hook. He was trying to jimmy the lock. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before reaching for the phone. My hands felt heavy. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I called room 214. "Hi, this is the front desk. Just wanted to confirm your food arrived okay." A sleepy woman answered. "What food?" I didn't order anything. I told her to lock her door and not open it for anyone. Then I called the police. They got there faster than I expected. Within about 7 minutes, a patrol car pulled up to the hotel. I showed them the footage. Lobby, hallway, parking lot. They searched everything. He was gone. No sign of the car. Just tire tracks near the edge of the back lot, fading into the weeds. No visible footprints, or at least none that were clear. He must have parked further down, or someone picked him up. Behind the vending machines near the side entrance, one of the officers found the red thermal bag. Inside was a half-eaten burger and a small container of fries. Still warm. No receipt. No name. No order number. They ran the license plate that briefly showed up on the exterior camera when he arrived. It was fake, didn't match any records in Arizona or any other state. Later, when we contacted DoorDash, they confirmed what I already knew. No orders were placed to our address that night. None. Not to the hotel. Not to room 214. Not even a canceled one. He wasn't a delivery driver. He was casing the place, looking for an open door. And he found one, just not the one he wanted. If you think working nights is just about boredom and bad coffee, it's because you haven't seen what we've seen. Click like, subscribe, and tell me, what's the creepiest experience you've ever had? Night shifts can be terrifying, but at least you're not stuck on a deserted highway at 2 a.m. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.